Hey kids, how are you? Well, this week in our Bible reading for church, we hear that Jesus is in Jerusalem and he's in the temple. And so I wanted to show you a picture of what we think that temple looked like at the time that Jesus would have been there. And so I'm going to show you a picture, and there you can kind of see this building, this wonderful, huge building that we believe looks like the temple that would have been in Jerusalem when Jesus was there. And in the background, you can see there's all these pillars along here. There's a huge row of pillars all the way around a huge platform, all the way around this huge temple. Okay, so it was a beautiful place, a very massive, very big place, and that's where the people would come to offer their sacrifices to God. And God had promised in the Old Testament that the presence of God would be there at the temple. And so the people knew that when they came to the temple, they would be they would be in the presence of God. Okay, well, I'm going to show you another picture. This is a picture of a church that's in Germany, in Berlin, and maybe you can see that there's what looks like an old part of the church and then a very new part. Well, the old part of this church was damaged, was bombed during the Second World War. It was destroyed, and they built a new church around this old church. So what I'm trying to say is that, no matter what the building is, whether it was a beautiful big temple like this temple is no longer standing either. It was destroyed a long time ago by the Romans, who came in and tore it all down. So where is God going to be? Where can we dwell with God if the places that God has promised to be with us aren't there anymore? Well, in our Bible reading today, Jesus reminds us that even though these buildings are very important as a place that we can gather to be around other people that are worshiping God, and that we can trust that God's presence dwells there, is in those places where God has promised to be. That's not the only place where God has promised to be. And Jesus tells us in our Bible reading today that even more important than that building is the fact that Jesus is God's presence for us. To have Jesus in our hearts is where God dwells. That Jesus is that presence of God for us. Okay? And in our baptism, God has made a promise that the power of Jesus lives in us, that God dwells in us. I remember a favorite song I used to have as a little child that just reminded me of inviting Jesus, or just recognizing and knowing that as I trust Jesus to be in my heart, I can know that God's presence is with me. The song goes like this: into my heart, come into my heart, Lord Jesus. Jesus, come in today, come in to stay, come into my heart, Lord Jesus. So again, as important as a temple is, as important as a church building is, if those buildings aren't there anymore, it doesn't mean that God's not with us, because God is always with us, because God dwells in us because of Jesus. All right, see you next week. Bye-bye.